Once you have created your session, you'll be automatically connected to it. You'll first see a loading screen, and once completed, you'll be shown this screen where you'll need to click the Enter Session button. Once you've entered the host session, you'll see a whole array of different screens, and we'll slowly talk through them. So up the top left, you've got session information. Next to that, you've got an End Session button. Click this once you've completed the session with your client. Below that, you've got a session start date and time, and also a counter which tells you how long your session's been running for. Session owner will be yourself. The client will show the name of the client. If you click on their name, it will pop up a new window with client histories, details, etc. Connected client shows the amount of connected client screens, whether they're remote or local. This will let you know how many screens are actively connected to your session. Across to the right, you've got client connection details. If you've got someone connecting remotely, this gives you the URL, the session ID, and the password that your client will need to connect to the screen. If you want to email this through to them directly, click on the Send Email option, enter in their email address, and press Send Email, and this will send an email to them directly with a one-button press that will open up the session for them. The Open Client Screen button is available if you're doing a non-video conference session. This quickly pops open a copy of the client screen and allows you to move that onto another monitor so your client can use it. Underneath that, you have Stimulation Control. This is where you control starting and stopping your sets. By default, when you first join a session, it will be set up in what we call testing mode. Testing mode is when your clients first come in for the session, you want to test the equipment's working right, get the settings correct, and we don't want to record any of that information, obviously. It's not an actual set. So in testing mode, you'll have this big yellow screen to warn you, and also the start button will say Start Test with a warning symbol. If you want to run through a test with your client and start a testing set, click on the Start Test button, and it will start your test. So while we're running that test, you'll see in the top right-hand corner where it says Client Preview, we can actually see what's going on. This is a representation of what the client will see. Obviously, there will be changes in regards to the client screen size, depending what their device they're using, but this is a good representation of what the client will have available to them. If you look underneath or at Stimulation Control, where we used to have the Start button, now we've clicked it, will actually show us a timer of how long the set's been running for, but also the number of passes, and we also have a Stop button. Below this, we've got our stimulation settings. So bilateral stimulation mode, you'll see three switches here. So changing these switches around will actually allow us to turn on and off different stimulations. So visual will be enabled by default, but you can turn on audible just by clicking on audible. And same, turn it back off if you want to run audio only, turn on audible, turn off visual, and it will run fine. A note with the audible stimulations, by default, if you look in the top right-hand corner, the client preview is muted for audio. So if you do want to hear the audio in part of your host session, click on the unmute button, and you'll begin to hear the audio. Again, if you want to mute it, click on mute and it will mute. Back to our stimulation settings. Underneath bilateral stimulation mode, you've got some general settings. So these apply regardless of which stimulation mode you're using. So speed, if you move it up, will make the sets or each pass quicker. And if you take it to the left, will make each pass longer. Here next to the tidal speed, you can actually see how many seconds each pass is going to take. Next down, we've got background color. So I'll just turn on visual so we can see it. With background color, if you click on the black dot, you'll actually see a whole bunch of different color options you can choose from. So you can use the color swatches at the bottom. You can drag along in this window and also drag along this bottom section here. Once you've got an option you like, click on Save, and you'll see in our client preview, this is updated. Underneath our general settings, we have mode settings. So at the top of mode settings, you've got three tabs: visual, audible, and tactile. Using these tabs, you can choose specific settings to whatever stimulation mode you're using. So we'll go to visual. First, you've got the option of type. If we open up this drop down, you can see there's three different types we can choose from: circle, square, or rectangle. So if we change it to square, you'll see up the top immediately in our client preview, it has changed to a square. Underneath, you've got color. So if you click again on the color box, you can choose whatever color you like, and we'll see the update in our client preview. Movement, we've got different types of movement, so side to side, up and down, left to right diagonal, or a figure 8. So we can choose whichever one we like, and again, it will be reflected in our client preview. And movement style, so we'll set this back to side as this makes it more obvious. Natural style is what we'll default to, so you can see it go slow, fast, and then slow. If we change this to linear style, it's the same speed all the way across, so the speed is always exactly the same. And also light bar as another example. It acts more like a light bar as opposed to a smooth side to side. So whatever option suits you or is best for your client, you can choose. If you wanted to change audio settings, go to the Audible tab and exactly the same. Choose your type from the top. At the moment we have click, but we have more coming in the next few weeks. And you can also change the tone, so you can set it to be a really high pitch or a very low pitch. With these settings, the more you play around with it, the more you'll start to understand how it works. Now, once you've got this all set up with your client, we want to go through and run an actual session. So we want to stop our testing mode, and then we need to turn off testing mode so we can run proper sets. So up the top right-hand side of stimulation control, we've got a switch here for testing mode. If we turn that off, you'll see the yellow warning disappears, and we've now got our start button. The exclamation mark there just means that we don't have any clients connected. If you ever see any signs like this, hover your mouse over them, and it will actually tell you what it wants to know. So if we're ready to start our first set, we have our settings correct. We can press start and the session will start. We can see how long we've been running for. We can see how many passes have run. If we decide after 3 or 4 passes that we want to actually turn off audio and just do visual, we can do that by changing the switch. If we decide we want to add in a different stimulation and change the background color for the patient, we're going to go in, change our background color, press save, and it will automatically update. Please note, some of the changes are instant. Some changes, such as turning audio on and off, will only come into effect when the next pass starts. Again, play around with this yourself and you'll start to see how the tool works. Once you've completed your set, press on the stop button. You'll now get a box show up that will tell you the time since your last set, so you can make sure you're getting your timings in between sets accurately or not wasting too much time. And you'll also see under set history, we get a record of the set we just ran. So we can see set number 1, what time we started it, what time we finished it, and how long it ran for, and how many passes. Again, if we wanted to start a second set, click on start again. We might decide we want to turn the speed up a bit. We might also want to go into visual and change it from light bar movement to a natural movement. Again, whenever you want to change stuff, it's as simple as find the setting you want to change and change it. I want to turn on audible. I'll turn on audible or the audio. The client will now be hearing the audio along with every pass that's in time with the visual. Once I finish my set, press stop. And again, I'll have it recorded. Set 2, what time it started, what time it finished, how long it ran for, and how many passes. So I always know where I'm up to. Once I finish my session, I go up to the top where it says session information, click on end session. And once my session is finished, I'll be taken through to the statistics screen. Remember, if you ever have any questions about Bisense, want answers, or want to contact us directly, down in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got the little question mark.